This is the guy that seems ready to make that next jump. And, will it work out or not? Remains to be seen. But I think you look at the past couple years where he's put up good numbers in Providence, but it's like, all right, we need to see the compete level be more consistent. We need to see the defensive game round out a little bit more. It feels like now they're like, all right, he's checked all these, he's hit these barometers there in terms of what they're looking for. Now it's all about getting the opportunity and rolling with it and seeing what you can do at the next level.
Poke the Bear is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 243, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get up to $100 cash back on that first deposit. And our friends at Game Time, go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. I know this is coming out after July 4th, but any big plans for the 4th? Ringing in the, I almost said ring in the new year, but you got an American flag shirt on. There you go. You're very patriotic. I like it.
Yes, I'm fully ready, Evan, to delete a couple of glizzies, have some hot dogs, not fire off any fireworks. Those are illegal in the state of Massachusetts. But I'm ready to delete some food. Get some, those great like little sugar cookies you get at like Stop and Shop. They're at every supermarket, but the little sugar cookies with like the frosting that is
and they're
just
all
melting.
Nut free. Those are all nut free, by the way. Those are gas.
You bite it, there's no crunch. It's just it's soft. It's lovely. It tastes great. It's slowly, you can tell it's eating away at the enamel on your teeth, but you don't really care. That's what dentures are for. So it's great. Yes. It is a perfect little shirt you got coming up here.
Remember when Charles Barkley was saying how San Antonio women eat churros and they're like, hum, hum, hum.
Yes.
Like that's how I eat those cookies. Like, hum, hum, hum.
Yeah,
just
they're great.
Constantly. They're so good.
And they're red, white, and blue. Got little sprinkles on them. They're gregreat. Perfect.
Patriotic. Yeah. Oh my God.
What do you need?
Yeah. Screw Great Britain and the British. By the way, I have a little 4th of July take before we get into Bruins stuff, because I know there's a lot. I'm not the biggest hot dog guy. I'm not the biggest glizzy guy. I don't know. I loved him when I was little. That's it. 2-minute episode is perfect. There's no way I don't know. Like they just sit in my stomach funny. I don't know what it is. Do you golf? I prefer a cheeseburger. So
do you golf?
That's my thing. I do golf. Yes.
But so you don't relish. Get it? You don't enjoy the best part of after a round of 18, going to like the clubhouse, having a post round glizzy. You don't enjoy that? Glizzy and a nice cold beverage?
I'll take like a Dr. Pepper Caesar wrap. I'll take like a chicken Caesar wrap or a burger or something like that, But that's just me. That's just me.
You're supposed to get the 2 glizzies, dude. The 2 glizzies. A little mustard, a little relish, a little fiddlehead IPA. Talking about how badly you sucked the last 4 hours with your friends.
It's true.
What do you need?
It's true, but and you and I disagree. I'm not a big IPA guy, at least yet. I'm still I still enjoy like a Coors Light or but I love like a good Sam Summer, good Corona, good Blue Moon.
We don't besmirch a couple of light beer, especially in the summertime. There's no slander from me. Don't worry.
No, I appreciate it.
I'll slander you about the hot dogs. I won't slander you about Coors Light.
I don't know. Hot dogs, it's just better meats. There's better meat to eat. That's just me. Not saying everybody's got to be that way. But it's my choice. It's my choice.
True. It's your patriotic right to say you don't like glizzies.
It's my right. People who I don't remember or know that maybe I have some ancestral tie to fought in the Revolutionary War, and I can eat how I want because that's how they fought. So there you go.
Jedediah Marinofsky crossing the Delaware.
He was on that boat. He was on that boat. Changed his name to just Kevin, so
yes,
fit in around here.
Of course.
Anyways, yes, the Marinofsky family goes way back to the Declaration of Independence. Bruins. This is an interesting week in terms of dev camp, free agency. And I think the big question that's on everyone's mind right now is, the depth charts are out there. Everyone's doing the depth chart stories, looking at what the lines are going to be next year, and everything's fairly set. The bottom 6 is full. On defense, you definitely have 7 there that are going to be playing quite a bit. Your top line looks pretty set, but what doesn't look set is that second line right wing. And a lot of names have been flown around. It doesn't seem like the Bruins are going to sign anybody for it. There aren't many free agents left, but there aren't like many high-end free agents left. They don't really have the money to do that because you got to sign Swayman. So who do you want to see as that second line right wing?
Well, I mean, I think if you listen to what the top evaluators and the top, player development coaches and all those people are saying within the Bruin system, it feels like Fabian Lysell is getting set up for a pretty significant push here. I mean, you had Don Sweeney before the draft mentioning Lysell as a guy that if he didn't get injured at the end of the regular season, he might have had a chance to get into the lineup over the 2 or 3 weeks at the end of the regular season where usually you're able to give those guys those spots. And then I know Ryan Mujanel mentioned on Wednesday of just how much Lysell developed and was kind of knocking on the door and should be a guy that can make a legitimate push during training camp. And I feel like it's kind of been a little bit different in terms of what we heard in the past. Like I think Lysell's been in the system for a couple of years, and every dev camp we've heard about the strides he's made and how promising of a player he is, and it's all about just rounding out his overall game and what's next. Now it seems like I don't know whether it's a circumstance of the fact that there is a vacancy there in the top six, but from what like Mujanel and these guys are saying, it feels like obviously not a finished product. Like that's the wrong way to phrase it, but this is the guy that seems ready to make that next jump. And, will it work out or not remains to be seen. But I think you look at the past couple of years where he's put up good numbers in Providence, but it's like, all right, we need to see the compete level be more consistent. We need to see the defensive game round out a little bit more. It feels like now they're like, all right, he's checked all these, he's hit these barometers there in terms of what they're looking for. Now it's all about getting the opportunity and rolling with it and seeing what you can do at the next level. Like Lysell always feels like a guy that once he kind of hit where he can be a point per game guy in the AHL, he's like, I'm here. I'm ready. And maybe now all of a sudden he can elevate that or it can transit to the next level. We'll see what happens. But from what the coaches and everyone else has said so far during dev camp, again, this is like the first dev camp in years where he's not actually there, Fabian Lysell, but it's still kind of a lingering narrative just in terms of that vacancy in the top six. It does seem like they're going to give him every opportunity during the preseason to do what he can. And if he can't roll with it and grab that role, then, shame on him, because it does seem like they're kind of carving out a path where he has the means to open the year at the NHL roster.
I want to see them try it. Like, this is the chance, and this is his shot. Like, and this is the thing that goes back to what we talked about on Bruins Beat earlier this week, when I was saying how, I don't like, that they didn't really address wings and free agency. But then we kind of said at the end, like, you do have the guys in the system, or a guy in Lysell that would actually fit here if, that's what his potential is, the top six right winger. And here's your shot. Here's a chance. And development takes a long time. We talk about this all the time. We've been talking about it with Dean Letourneau. We've been talking about it with players for a long time. Like, guys develop at different paces. Not everybody's David Pastrnak. It's stupid to assume that everybody is. And guys take time to grow and to, shape. And I know Mujanel talked on Wednesday about how, him coming over from Europe, he prioritized different things than, a lot of the North American game did. And it takes time to get that into a young guy's head. And it's worked for him for so long. So, understanding that, hey, if you're great on defense, that's not like the end of the shift. You can produce a lot of offense from good defense. And I think drilling that into his head. So this is his shot. And I think when you look at what his skill set is, what he can be, what he's been projected to be, could be a second line right winger. And I think we've said this before, like, if he, it's a lot to ask, but what if during this year he gives you like 20 goals? I mean, you take that every time. And fitting alongside a Marchand and a Coyle potentially, I think that, the opportunity is there. It sort of reminds me, I think it was that COVID shortened 2020-21 season. So really just the 2021 season when I think it was either Bergeron or Krejci was hurt and Jack Studnicka got like the first crack at being a top line center. And he was legit top line center for like a game. And then he was in the doghouse and Cassidy was like, all right, no more of that. But I do think with Lysell, I think there's gonna be a longer leash because they need that second line right wing spot. It needs to hit. And I think, you're a better team when guys like Trent Frederick are on the third line or Morgan Geekie are on the third line. You're better when Matt Patra is down the middle. You're better when Georgi Merkulov, I think, is down the middle. I think you want to develop him as a center. and see what he can give you. So to me, like, I agree with you. I think Lysell is the play there. It looks like it's sort of his spot to lose. I don't like a Brazo. I think that's again a better guy in the bottom six. If he goes off and he's, can't miss and scoring goals, then yeah, you move him up. But starting the year with Frederick or Brazo or Geeky on that right side, I think, you know what those guys are. Lysell, you don't. This is a real opportunity. We've said this for a long time. Like, you're not bringing Lysell in to play, 10 minutes a night on the fourth line. You're not, they
Right.
brought Merkulov in, played 8 minutes on the fourth line. Like, that's just a taste. That's just dipping your toe in the water. You don't know what the water temperature actually is and how you're going to react to it after you just jump in. So, yeah, I mean, I think Lysell's it seems like he's sort of the fit there. And yeah, I'm cool with that. Like, I'm cool with that. I'm not saying it's going to work, but it's time you see what you got in the kid. And hey, maybe he gives you a ton and you trade him down the road, or you've got a right wing of the future, which you don't seem to have a lot of outside of Pastrnak. So I think that is a good thing. One thing that also happened Wednesday, these new Bruins have been doing Zooms. It's like we're back in COVID. It's like, friggin', we're back on can I raise my hand? But I get it. Obviously, you have to do it because these guys are far away. Joonas Korpisalo spoke to the media on Wednesday, and he was asked a lot about the Senators and what that was like, and he pointed to the ownership changes, the GM changes, but I said ultimately it's up to him. Like, he's got to be better, and I'm curious what you kind of took away from those comments.
Yeah, I mean, I think for him, the one thing that kind of stood out is him mentioning that he doesn't really feel like it's all about completely overhauling his game. Which, I mean, if you're a goalie who's 30, who's been in the league for 7-8 years now, right? Like, I don't think you're completely starting from scratch, going, from
Not gonna
the very
work.
beginning there. Yeah, it's not gonna work. You're a little bit too far into things right now to do that.
I don't know.
But yeah, like, I think it was good that he admits that last year was more or less a shit show with Ottawa, and that can weigh on a player. Same as Elias Lindholm mentioning, like, in Calgary, like, going into the year, knowing that you're going to be a pending free agent, knowing pretty early on you're going to get traded, all those things that kind of weigh on you as a player. But Korpisalo again cuts back to the fact that he just needs to be better, and mentioned working with goalie Bob Asenza and how that could kind of bring more out of him, which is it's encouraging that he's saying all the right things. It's still, I think, remains to be seen what the Bruins' ultimate plan will be there. I think they hope they can get something out of Korpisalo. I don't know why you would take on that contract at a 25% hit if you didn't think you could get something out of him as a solid backup, but we'll see, right? Like, you still have Brendan Bussi, you still have this weird situation where I think it was Bruins Cap Space, who I think was the first one I saw, who kind of brought up the scenario of, like, it could be you see what you have in Korpisalo, but if he's not strikingly better than Brendan Bussi, then I think you take the cap hit of putting Korpisalo in Providence. It's only, I think, 1.15 million you save, so not a whole lot, but better than a player with a $3 million cap hit who's not giving you as much, and you roll with Bussi as your backup there. So that that also falls on, like with Lysell, Bussi needs to make the most of his opportunity and make it work. But yeah, it's very interesting to see, like, what the Bruins can kind of coax out of a player like Korpisalo, who again should have a really good decor in front of him. Like, as much as we talked about, the Bruins last year were prone to more, giving up high quality chances, grade A looks. You look at 1 through 6, what the Bruins have now with Zadorov in there. It should be a good group. You should have strong defensive structure. You add a guy like Elias Lindholm, who's a great two-way centerman as well. You had a lot of guys in the bottom 6 who are good on draws. The team in front of them should be a lot better. But if Korpisalo can't hold up his end of the bargain, again, we're not saying he's going to be, we're going to be in early December and he's going to have like a 924 save percentage. But if he can be a capable backup, then I think the Bruins are going to give him the leeway and work with him to, have him kind of reestablish himself. But again, all kind of falls on him, what he can make out of it.
It does, and I want to get into this goaltending situation because everyone's focused on Swayman re-signing, and yeah, that's very valid.
Yes.
We're all waiting for that to happen. We don't want arbitration again, but Bussi or Korpisalo, I think this is a big thing, and I want to get into that in a sec. But first, quick word from our friends over at
the NBA Finals are over, and the Celtics are champions. but there's still so many ways for you to get in on the action and win up to 100 times your cash on Prize Picks, as you and the world's best players take the game to a whole new level on the court, baseball diamond, and much more. With Prize Picks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on 2 to 6 players' stats projections, and you're locked in. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Get on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and a huge selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. With the finals over, the hoop action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. Women's basketball is still heating up. With stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves alongside greats like Brianna Stewart and Aja Wilson, you could win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out. There's no shortage of ways to participate in Prize Picks. This week, I'm selecting Caitlin Clark for more than 25 points and Tanner Houck for more than 7 strikeouts. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, let's get back to the show.
So, we've talked a lot about how, Bussi just signed a 1-year, 2-way deal. Would require waivers now to go down to Providence. Probably would get claimed. Again, he's a great young goalie. Teams like good young goalies. And, we initially thought, all right, Swayman and Bussi, they'll roll with that next season. Then you bring Korpisalo into the mix. I think it's a fascinating look at, because again, Korpisalo has had some good stretches. Like he had that, those 11 games in Los Angeles that he was strong in 2 years ago. Was a promising young goalie for Columbus at one time. He's not old by any means. Maybe with some coaching from goalie Bob that, there's some improvements made for sure, playing with the Bruins, whatever. I still get worried that you're just kind of, you keep pushing down Bussi. Like that's the one thing where it's like, what's your plan there? I mean, and the other thing is I also wonder this, if Korpisalo has an outstanding training camp and looks real good going into the season, do you trade Bussi? That's the other thing too. How do you juggle all these guys and how do you not stifle Bussi's development? I think it's a real concern.
Yeah, I think the one thing that kind of irked me at the end of last year, there's a couple times in terms of again, you look at last season and you had guys like Beach and you had guys like Lori and Poitras who all had these opportunities and ran with them. But you also have Georgi Merkulov playing 2 games and playing, I think, if my math is correct, I think he played about 3 minutes and 11 seconds per game. That's what it felt like. It felt like he played one shift.
Yeah.
No,
it did.
I'm joking.
You never noticed.
It was I think 9 minutes. Yeah.
I'm joking. You're right, though. It was a very minuscule amount of time on ice.
So you look at that. There was that stretch right where Ullmark got hurt on that West Coast trip or out in the desert, wherever it was, and you pretty much ran with Swayman the entire way there instead of going with Bussi for at least one game. Right, you're playing a couple of honestly pretty shit teams out
Tomato
west.
Cans.
Was a chance there, and then once you have stuff more or less locked up at the end of the year, not getting Bussi in for at least one game, see how he does. Again, goaltending is so volatile in terms of the baseline numbers that you shouldn't let one bad stat necessarily ruin your perception of a player, but good just to get him in a game, see what he has, right? You look at I think he started the first preseason game and he had that crazy diving glove save. I forget who they even played, but I think it was the first preseason game of the year, right? So if he flashes that and all of a sudden you have people excited about his development and he builds that confidence up, you have a guy that can go into the year, going into the offseason thinking that, all right, I'm on the right path, got my first taste, not taking advantage of that when you had that opportunity. And now he's, again, in this limbo where, he's going to go into, I'm sure going into camp, he's going to think he's competing for the backup job. But again, if it's all things equal between him and Korpisalo has a 9-12 save percentage in a couple of preseason games and Bussi has a 9-10, they're probably going to go with Korpisalo unless it's just the money and the way they crunch things doesn't work out or they're short, $500K or something in terms of another deal they want to make or whatever it is. It's not cut and dry, and you run the risk if you're the Bruins of once again either stagnating Bussi's development or giving away for nothing and putting him on waivers, right? Like it's kind of a tough spot to put a guy that, again, you sign. It's the Bruins have this track record of signing these undrafted free agents out of college that end up being good value players. Letting a goalie especially walk that you've developed the last couple of years who could be something. And that's also the issue, right? We don't necessarily know because you haven't given him a look yet. So, but if he does walk and he gets claimed on waivers, it's a big waste of a couple of years of investment in a good goalie who could make you pay a couple of years down the road if he's playing for another team, especially in the East.
Well, you look at sort of like when there's a good young goalie who comes up behind an established younger goalie, like Swayman is the guy. Swayman is the number one for sure. Bussi comes up, plays well behind Swayman, shows a lot of promise. Obviously, he's had a great AHL career. You might have a team bite on a guy like Brandon Bussi down the road in a trade where it's like, he's done a couple of years in the NHL. He's clearly a starter, but not going to start here. They're not going to do the tandem again. You get a team that needs a goalie, going to give you something for him. And I think with Korpisalo, like, if you, rehab him, so to speak, and he improves and his numbers get better, sure, you can trade him, but there's always that track record of, oh, he wasn't that great prior to Boston. Whereas Bussi, you don't have that. He's just a young, fresh goalie. And I think that's more appealing to teams. So that's kind of where that Korpisalo contract is sort of annoying in the sense, like, even if Korpisalo gives you good play, which very well could happen, like it wouldn't shock anybody if that was the case. What do you do about Bussi? And that's the thing. I think that's going to be a storyline that we talk a lot about over the summer and try to get clarity on because, again, that's a good young goalie is hard to come by, and you have it, and you've had him for a couple years now. Something that you should have had for a couple years now. It's game time. Here's our friends over at
the Celtics are champs, the Bruins are hibernating, and Patriots training camp is still months away. But it's the summer, and the Red Sox are heating up at just the right time. And if you're a Sox fan and want to catch a game at Fenway, you got to go with Game Time Tickets. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace that makes getting MLB tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. And the best part about Game Time tickets? You can browse through the Game Time app to find great seats at affordable prices for all sorts of in-demand games, concerts, and other events. Want to snag last-minute tickets to a concert? Game Time Tickets has you covered. Maybe a Sunday matinee game at Fenway, or maybe even an early ticket to Gillette in September. There's no shortage of options when using the Game Time app. Some of my favorite features of the app include seat views, where you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, and the lowest price guarantee, or else Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You also can't beat all-in pricing, a feature that shows you the total of your tickets up front, with no surprise fees waiting for you at checkout. Game Time Tickets also has you covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, including event cancellation protection, 24-hour return guarantee, job loss assurance, and on-time ticket delivery. So what are you waiting for? Get the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, let's get back to the show.
So back to the show. We are been development camp this week. Always fun. Definitely getting a first round pick, drafting Dean Letourneau has added an added level of excitement. I know going into dev camp prior to them getting a first, we were like, it's not going to be much there. There's not going to be a heck of a lot there. So far through, this is coming out Friday, so we have not seen the scrimmage yet. I may or may not have went to the beach instead of watching the scrimmage. I must admit.
No glizzies.
No glizzies. Maybe actually, I don't know. I don't know if I packed a lunch. So if I pack a lunch, maybe. But if not, if that's there, I'm eating a glizzy.
There you go.
Who stood up to you so far at dev camp?
I think in terms of everyone will obviously, I think, look at Letourneau, who's an intriguing player, right, in terms of just how rangy he is. And I think it's the number one thing that sticks out to me. Like, the skating's been pretty solid. He's got good strides. You can just tell he's a bit of a project, right, in terms of just how lanky he is, but you can see, like, especially in some of these battle drills where you can see why if he fills out and he continues to play into that size, he can really be a difference maker there. But he's a couple years away, which again,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not like this is a guy you saw and you're like, ooh, this is going to take a while. This is going to take more than a little bit of duct tape, right? Like you can see, like, wow, if he fills out and goes along the developmental timeline that we all expect, like he could really be an intriguing guy moving forward. So I think that's encouraging. But I'd say Riley Duran's a guy that has looked pretty good so far in camp, and he's another guy that you look at Merkulov, you look at Lysell. It does seem like from you listen to Mouchinel and some of these other guys that Duran's right there. And I think it was Adam McQuaid mentioned on Tuesday. He was like, this is, not to sound disrespectful, but he's just a very simple player. But you look at how he plays and the motor he plays with, there's a lot of value in terms of what he could bring in a bottom six role. The Bruins have no shortage of guys that could fill out those kind of roles further down the depth chart, but you do look at just the way he's played, especially his shot, which I think is kind of stood out to me in camp so far, and which I think was kind of the last missing element as to whether or not he could be a guy that could be an everyday fourth line player in the NHL. But I think Durant's one guy that even if maybe there's a bit of a logjam this year, he's probably the next guy up if you're looking for kind of that call it from Providence, spark plug, all those kind of things.
I agree. Duran's been great. I think, as you mentioned, like Mouchinel said on Wednesday, like didn't expect this amount of skill out of him. Didn't expect this. And he's giving you that. So I agree. I think Duran's been one. Some others that I've liked, on Wednesday, they did a lot of 3-on-3, a lot of battle drills. Oscar Jelvik and Andre Gasso. Gasso moves well for a guy who's 6'4", 215. I know he's a 7th round pick. But again, he's getting developed at BC. Still obviously has a little ways to go in his development, but heavy shot. Like I've liked that so far. I don't know what his ceiling is going to be. I don't know what you can really project him as. Again, it's going to take time in Providence. Whenever the time comes, he moves pro, but I think he's an interesting guy, has the size, can move well. So like Gasso's one. And then as I mentioned, like Jelvik, like partially, I think Jelvik looks good because like there's no one else at his size that moves like him in this camp. Like everybody's huge. There's three guys in the whole camp that are under 6 feet. Like that's crazy. It's Cole Spicer, Jelvik, and Dan Zlotmelis, who that's a UMass guy, and Matt Poitras, by the way. So 4. But he's really.
Podra's like not even like I know he's at dev camp, but it's like it is very funny that he's just back there once again. Like I get coming off the shoulder injury, he's a young guy, but like dude's just chilling. He's just there for the vibe.
He's like the veteran of it. Yet there are people 4 years older than him at the camp. But Jelvik's speedy, shifty. I don't know what his NHL ceiling is going to be, just given his size. I mean, he's 5'10", 181. Plays with attitude, physical. All that stuff. So maybe he does carve an NHL rollout for himself. He had 41 points this last year with BC. At the very least, I think though he's a very great AHL player at the very least. And you know what? There's value in that. There's value. I know people only care about what happens in Boston. There's nothing wrong with a great career in the AHL, and he might end up cracking the NHL. I'm not saying he's not, but I'm saying like his floor is he could be a great AHL player. So again, take that for what it's worth. And I think that Jelvik and Gasso being good is interesting because BC looks at their lineup and they feel that, last year they had, heavy hitters up front. You lose Smith, you lose Gauthier. I'm sorry, Connor. It looks like Ryan Leonard is definitely coming back.
It's not great.
In Caps depth camp. Yeah, that's not good for you. But they have a top 9. They have a lot in their top 9. They have like guys like Teddy Stiga coming in. They have Hagens, obviously, so that top line. Most likely if Perreault, Hagens, and Leonard is going to be filthy. But then, not good. But like Letourneau will play the middle. I don't see why he wouldn't. Is he between Jelvik and Gasso? Like, I think that's a really intriguing line if you can make that work. You also have guys like Stiga, Will Vogt, others. But like, I think that's an interesting thing if they end up putting Letourneau between Jelvik and Gasso. So that's one thing to watch. This is bias, I guess, because he's from New England. But I like Elliot Greenwald. I like him. I do. Good stick. Like I haven't seen anything new. Like, I'm not like, oh, wow, he's a phenomenal puck mover, but just like one-on-one defense, defending the rush in some of these drills. He never quits. Good stick positioning. Mujanel talked about, the importance of a good stick on Wednesday. So I like Greenwald too. So, not to say everybody else sucks, but,
Yes.
those are the guys.
A lot
that
of guys there.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys, and it's been 3 days, and most of the days have been skill work, drills, skating drills. I'm sorry, like, I know we say this every year. There's nothing you can take most times. Like, I tweeted a video of Dean Letourneau skating, and it was just like the first skating drill of the day.
God.
People are like, this is so misleading. It's like, no, it's just a drill. Like, take what you want from it. It's just him skating. I'm not saying he's good at skating. I'm not saying he's bad at skating. It's just him skating, and that's it. So that's been that. It's a hard. Any camp like this is impossible for goalies. Like, goalies rarely look good at events like this. I mean, you can't. Most summer events, a goalie's not going to be looking great. So another interesting one though is Mike Mastrodomenico. He wasn't drafted. There's a defenseman. Good guy. Like, I don't know. Maybe they signed him. He's still at Notre Dame. So, could be a college free agent signing. I don't know. So,
Yep.
We'll see. Interesting stuff at Dev Camp. You mentioned under the radar prospect in the system. Would yours be Riley Duran at this point?
I would say, I mean, I feel like he's got, it's probably not even under the radar now in terms of like, he seems like he's got a pretty easy floor to chart out, right? In terms of being a fourth line guy that could very well be in that mix, maybe sooner rather than later. I'd say probably underrated. I mean, like Gasso, I think is a good one in terms of a 7th round pick who like produced even before BC got an all-star lineup. He was good his freshman year as well as a big body, high motor, which is, I think, a good thing to see the Bruins targeting those kinds of players. So I like Gasso's game. Jelvik, as you said, is a really intriguing player that has some good, middle six upside, right? If he continues to play at this level, which I think is encouraging. Then underrated. I don't know if it's underrated, but intriguing. And you can't really glean, I think, his skills probably at Dev Camp because it'd probably not look good if he's just obliterating his fellow Bruins teammates. But Jackson Edward, a guy who's going to go up to Providence this year, again, a 7th round pick. So if you'll take anything out of what these guys can contribute, whether it's at the AHL or obviously the NHL. But Edward's a guy where I feel like we're going to see a whole lot of our friends who clip, nonstop these videos in Providence, Bruins Network, who continues to chirp me for no reason. I would like to say it's kind of being a jerk, but he's on top of his Bruins prospects. Between that,
wait, what's the history on the Linguini? What's
there's
up
nothing.
with the Paz thing?
Well, no, I'm not going to reveal his identity for people who don't know him. But he has an Instagram and he like will post a photo of like an impeccable like 3 little raviolis. It's like a very fancy like pasta dish, but it's like 3 strands of linguine. I'm like, buddy, get some Chef Boyardee or something. What are you doing? What are you doing?
SpaghettiOs.
Exactly. Have a heartier meal, dude. Shit. So
I didn't know that.
Anyway,
I didn't know that.
I kid. But we know I know that this upcoming year, whether it's video clips we're gonna see online or like Diver watching games in Providence, it's gonna be like just Jackson Edward wreaking havoc. The guy's like a wrecking ball out there. So
chaotic.
He's
a
a guy
Robert
that,
Chalmers
again,
video for sure.
Yes, exactly. Like there will be clips of that where he's probably going to be going crazy out there on the ice, but he has the floor of a guy that can be a third pairing, no frills, really physical player. And you look at Adam McQuaid or you look at like Kevin Miller, those guys, like they had pretty productive NHL careers. So I think that's a guy that you look at just what that dynamic is and where the league is so heavy on skill and speed now. Not to say that like he's one dimensional, Edward, but the fact that he is so aggressive and is so physical makes him kind of an outlier in today's game. So I think that's a guy that's worth keeping tabs on because he could be a guy that just the way he plays, he could have a pretty fruitful NHL career down the road.
Yeah, I go back to like you mentioned like 7th round picks and like if you can get anything out of a 7th rounder at any level of your club, AHL, NHL, whatever, you take it. And by the way, though, if Jackson Edwards ends up hitting and Jack Edwards is like it's the post Jack Edwards, like
what a wasted
opportunity, such a wasted opportunity. But I agree with you, and I think so is an interesting one. I mean, Jelvik was only a 5th. So, like, that's the other thing. Like, if those guys can give you anything, you take it. The reality is most of these guys not going to pan out, not going to do a heck of a lot, most of them. But you take what you can get. You look for it's very interesting to me to see like 7th rounders looking good, and then guys who were picked in like the 3rd and 4th round who getting past a bit, and I think that's an interesting thing of player development. And we talk about this all the time. People develop at different times. It takes, shorter, longer for some people. And I think people have to just be patient. And I know that's hard. I know people want everybody, people are going to want Dean Letourneau in the NHL like next year. It's like, no,
Have to wait a little bit.
Don't do that. Don't do that. You need to wait. And so far from Letourneau through like 3 days, I mean, it hasn't been a ton to watch, but like you're 100% right in that clearly raw, a lot of work to do. The tools are there. Definitely has, sneak a really good shot, all that stuff. Needs to fill out a bit. Like you can knock him down fairly easily for a 6'7" guy, but he's 18 years old and 6'7". Of course he's going to go down. So I think that, not saying he's going to be, 100% a number 1 center someday, but like be patient at least. Be patient before people start to say what he is and what he isn't. Anyways, Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can. We'll have you covered every step of the way this offseason. Now that we're past the busy stretch, we'll slow things down just a little bit, but we'll have you covered. If
not
any
you,
other news...
you will not be slowing things down in your own life.
Yeah,
you got some stuff going on coming up.
Yeah, I've got my own wedding coming up and things like that. But when Leon Draisaitl does get traded to the Bruins the night of my wedding, emergency pod will be okay. We'll see. We'll roll with the punches when that happens. But anything
you'll be on your flight. You'll be on your flight to your honeymoon, and that will happen.
That will probably happen. Yes, thank God for in-flight Wi-Fi. But regardless of what goes on this offseason, whether it's trades, signings, anything like that, we'll have you covered every step of the way over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. And you can follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, over at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. You and Sarah Kirkpatrick signing a lifetime deal. That's a hell of a free agent signing.
Yeah, absolutely. Better than a PTO.
Yeah, a PTO would be tough. Yeah, I say I do to a professional tryout agreement. That would be as good as it gets. Anyways, Connor, always fun. Happy 4th to you and our United States of America listeners. And you Poke the Bear listeners, have a great rest of your week.